Hello and welcome to the circus.
This high, be the type of shit to keep me up at night. Never short of a breath when I spit my rhymes. From the forms I express every fucking time. Bring me back to the light when I feel it right. This life, something special when I'm on my grind. Never short of the stress when I speak my mind. But of course, never.
Hello, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls. Welcome in to Friday Fundays. As always, I am your host, the Fantasy Football Joker, Jack Lusney. You know the drill. Make sure you like, sub, comment, and share. While you're at it, why don't you go sign up to Fantasy Football Advice Forum.com. There's all kinds of great stuff happening over there. There's new content creators being added daily. So if you want to hang out with some really cool people, including a Joker, go sign up and use my code Joker420. You can get yourself 20% off. Draft season is right around the corner, and I had to sneak in one final Underdog weekly winner draft to get on the live stream. So for this one, we're looking at a strategy very much of we're going to be targeting week 1. So I've already got it broken down in my show doc. We'll get this kicked off here. But if you are trying to use this strategy and trying to get the weekly winners in, if you're targeting week 1, to me, the explosive matchups that I've identified where it's like basically a lock, Lions, Chiefs, Bears, Packers, Dolphins, Chargers. I really obviously like both the Dolphins and Chargers. That feels like automatic points. Bears, Packers, normally rivalry games tend to be a little bit lower scoring. But I think with Justin Fields and DJ Moore, and then on the other side, Jordan Love looking to show out, I actually think this could definitely turn into a 30-burger. So that could end up being a very fun matchup. And Lions-Chiefs, obviously the Chiefs are the Super Bowl champions. Patrick Mahomes doing what he does. And the Detroit Lions looking to deploy Jahmyr Gibbs, and we'll get to really see how they use Gibbs and Montgomery in tandem. So those are the teams I'm going to be mainly targeting. There are some wild cards, though, where I could literally see it going either way. Raiders, Broncos, Rams, Seahawks, Bills, Jets, Bengals, Browns. All of those I could very easily see being low-scoring games. I could also see them turning in a bit of a barn burner. And then Vikings, Ravens, I do see as having one-sided plus matchups. The Ravens will be taking on Houston week 1, and they're at home, so that's a plus. And then the Vikings are at home, and they get the Bucs, who I think the Bucs are gonna be one of the teams finishing last this year. To me, I have Arizona Cardinals and Tampa Bay Buccaneers as two of my lowest rated teams. And if it wasn't for Mike Evans and Chris Godwin, the Tampa Bay Buccaneers would be in some big trouble if you ask me. So we'll kick it off here. The last few times I've done the Underdog drafts, I've been kind of all over the place trying to multitask. We're very much going to be focused in because this is going to be the last one that I do on the live streams. With redraft season around the corner, I'm definitely going to be switching up the content, gearing up more for the regular season, making sure that we're getting ready. Justin Jefferson goes 101. It's also interesting at this point with a couple weeks of preseason down the hatch to see how some of the ADPs have changed. But still very consistent. Justin Jefferson, Jamar Chase go 1 and 2. And then Christian McCaffrey goes 103. And word on the block is Joe Burrow, because I know there's a lot of timelines floating around there on Twitter from the source that I trust, which is the Dr. Jesse Morse of the Fantasy Doctors. Make sure you give him a follow on Twitter if you're not already. From what I saw, I believe he had put out a tweet saying that Joe Burrow basically should be ready for week 1. So I'm going to rely on that. And then 104, Tyreek Hill. 105, Cooper Kupp. Little Koopa Kupp. So very standard so far. And it just continues very standard. Austin Eckler, 106. Travis Kelce, 107. And so we'll get out of the draft board here. Bijan goes 108. And then A.J. Brown goes 109. So, do we go with Amon-Ra in the matchup? I love that, but I just can't resist Nick Chubb. And that Bengals-Browns matchup is part of my wild cards of I do think that could turn into an explosive matchup if Joe Burrow is actually available. It would be really sick if Amon-Ra made it back to me, but he usually does not. So, yeah, see, we need to already start looking for our pivot. What's going on with Jalen Waddle optimism? I'm not a fan of hearing optimism. So, again here, we're just going to go with Devontae Adams because we are trying to load up for that week 1. And the Raiders will be on the road against the Broncos in that mile-high air. I definitely think Devontae will have a good game. Next up goes Derrick Henry, Josh Allen. So all pretty standard still. I don't see anything that really jumps out at me in terms of anything that's changed too much. And at this point, I mean, we've gone kind of classic running back, wide receiver. I don't think there really is like a firm strategy that I'm counting on this year. I know it sounds silly, but I'm just taking the best player available to me. Mark Andrews at 211. That is a little bit high. Oh, wow. Calvin Ridley at 212. I am just not in on Calvin Ridley at that ADP whatsoever. I think he could have a decent season, but that's kind of crazy to me. I feel like I would much rather have Christian Kirk at his ADP. So after, Mr. W. Lewis there got the nice Mark Andrews, Lamar Jackson stack. And that's a nice week 1 stack because they've got Houston. So, and then with Jamar Chase, that's looking like a very strong week 1 lineup from the 2 spot. So early favorite for favorite team besides mine is W. Lewis here. Devonta Smith, T. Higgins, Jonathan Taylor. We all have heard at this point the news about Jonathan Taylor. They went from we'll never trade him to now we'll trade him, but it's got to be for a first-round pick. Who knows what's going on in the mind of Jim Irsay? Step out of here so that we're able to make our pick. If Jahmyr Gibbs could make it to us, that would be very tasty. If not, we might have to reach on Justin Herbert's ADP has been pushed way up too. Usually I was getting him in the 5th round. Now if I want him, looks like I'm going to have to take him in the 3rd. That doesn't feel as good. And Jahmyr Gibbs swiped right in front of my face. You know what? Perfect. We're going to take DJ Moore here. We'll just stay right here for a second. Keenan Allen would have been a nice pick too. Oh, wow. Justin Herbert goes immediately after. So it could have been worth taking Herbert there, but there's other quarterbacks on the board. We are already right back on it. I love Najee Harris, but I don't love that week one matchup against the 49ers. They are at home, though. You know what? Just gonna go with it. We could have gone Joe Mixon there, but I think Najee at home, I'm going to take the juice. Feels like he's definitely going to score a touchdown or two. Kind of would have been nice to take Joe Mixon just to have the correlation of Nick Chubb, Joe Mixon just going back and forth in that game. But if for some reason it turned into an actual shootout, Mixon could be the one on the outside looking in, it feels like. And then Joe Mixon goes immediately after my Najee Harris pick. God, I low-key hate when that happens because I love the feeling of swiping people. So next, Amari Cooper, Jerry Jeudy. We'll flip back to the draft board here. Let's see what we got. Christian Watson. I do like Christian Watson still a lot. I feel like his ADP is kind of settled in that 4th to 5th round range. And I do enjoy that. Ramondre Stevenson, wow, that's a big hit to his ADP. A full 2 rounds almost because of the Zeke signing. Aaron Jones goes next. And then Travis Etienne. I still like Travis Etienne as much as I love Tank Bigsby. And, if you haven't already seen my top 5 running backs that I'm targeting in the draft, Tank Bigsby was number 5 on that list because his ADP is so cheap and he's clearly going to be involved. But that doesn't mean I'm out on Travis Etienne. Now, obviously, the ADP at 410 makes it a bit more of a hit. I still think that Travis Etienne is going to have a nice season. I don't think it's going to be great, but I definitely think he's fantasy viable. I would not be upset about having him in as like my RB2 or RB3 even if I went really heavy at running back, but that's something I almost never do. There have been rare occasions, though, where I've started like Chubb, Derrick Henry, and then I get down to that range and it's like Najee or Etienne, just kind of take one or the other, and then I'm just done running back for the rest of the draft. But that's a very traditional build and not something I do very often, admittedly. So Breece Hall is an interesting case because I got to say I'm rising on Breece Hall's potential for this year and being available earlier than I thought, and that's because of Javonte Williams. And if you saw, again, shout out to my reaction show, Monday Mayhem, if you were watching that. I had talked about just science is crazy, and it's amazing to me that Javonte Williams was back in any capacity in the preseason game that he played in. So that bodes well for Breece Hall as well. Just the fact that, through the miracles of science, that both players could be available to us this season. And then, like, just on a human level, I want to see them return and be successful because they were both, young stud running backs on the rise, future of the position. And then, unfortunately, both of them to have been hit with season-ending injuries. And I know it took out my Megalo Bowl team last year because I had drafted both of them. That had to be like one of the worst drafts I ever had. I took Breece Hall, Javonte Williams, and Kyle Pitts. I had all three of them. I also Trey Lance later as like my quarterback. It was abysmal season, and I definitely took it on the chin. And so maybe I've been more hesitant to draft them because of that, and because generally speaking, I tend to be more hesitant about drafting injured players, like actively injured players coming back from injury. So just to quickly recap, though, Trevor Lawrence, Joe Burrow, TJ Hawkinson, Darren Waller. Love Darren Waller. Terry McLaurin. Ooh, toe turf. That kind of sucks. He's not going to be there week 1. Drake London, Deontay Johnson, Brandon Ayuk. And we're going to slide down. Why? Did he already get drafted and I just didn't even see it? Okay, we are going to go with Christian Kirk. Actually, wait, no. Right, JSN is hurt, so let's just get Tyler Lockett, who's always going to outproduce his ADP for us. And then going to take a huge leap on Jahan Dotson. I don't even know what his ADP is, and I just don't even care. Because, again, we are building this team for week 1. I need to make sure Jahan Dotson is on this team because he's going to have a matchup against the Arizona Cardinals with Terry McLaurin having turf toe. I don't think he's going to be available week 1, and even if he is, he's not going to be 100%. So it's going to be Jahan Dotson all day, and especially against that bad Cardinals team. Like, oh man, I think Jahan Dotson could have a true breakout game, like literally week 1. So we're going to take a bit of a leap on the ADP, just kind of ignore that and just get our guy and make sure that we have Jahan Dotson to the moon, baby. So let's go back to the draft board here. George Pickens. I really love George Pickens. He should definitely be like the main touchdown guy there. Kenneth Walker, Christian Kirk. I think I'm kind of, the ADP's come down, so it's definitely better, but I think I'm still out on Kenneth Walker. It feels to me like it's going to end up being more Charbonnet, and that just kind of makes me nervous. Gabe Davis, I love. If Gabe Davis can just increase his catch rate percentage to about 60 to 65%, he's money as a wide receiver, especially as a wide receiver 2 or 3 that you're going to get spike weeks from. Dallas Goedert goes next. I just think Dallas Goedert's very mid. He's never had more than 850 yards, never had more than 5 touchdowns, never had more than 60 receptions in any year that he's played. I think his value is inflated because he plays with Jalen Hurts. He's a good player in real life. Just for fantasy, I'm out because there's other players I think that will outproduce him that you can get later, like Pat Freiermuth, for example. Cam Akers goes next. Mike Evans. It's a little high for Mike Evans, I feel. I think Baker Mayfield might be like inspiring some confidence in people. James Conner goes next. Even at 6'11", that's a good value to me. James Conner. The only game in town, he was number 3 on my running backs list. So that feels like just, smart drafting to take James Conner. And, even though the Cardinals are going to suck, he should still be good. DeAndre Swift goes next. I'm just out on the Philly backfield until I see more right now, because I honestly have no idea who it's going to be. The bones of Trey Sermon went out there and had a decent game in the preseason. They still have Boston Scott running around the building. It could be anybody. That's one of the few teams where it's like they are the picture of the modern NFL, where it's like we don't need a star running back. We just need a warm body. Jackson Smith and Jigba goes next. There's news about the wrist surgery. He might be out 3 to 4 weeks, so he could potentially miss the beginning of the season. Zay Flowers, really love Zay Flowers. He's been showing out in training camp and the preseason. Javonte Williams, we talked about him. Miracles of Science. Chris Godwin, Brandon Cooks, Hollywood Brown. I'm out on Hollywood. Just like I don't even know who the quarterback's going to be. They haven't even announced who the starter is going to be. Is it Colt McCoy or Clayton Tune? And does it actually matter which one? Rashad White, Miles Sanders. Man, I'm like loving this team right now. So we're going to need a quarterback. We're going to go with Tua here because I think he could definitely get into a shootout against the Chargers. So that could potentially be a nice matchup for us. And again, we are targeting the week 1 burst. Now, granted, this team looks decent for like a season-long run, but for just week 1, I like this team so far. You've got Tua, Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett, and Jahan Dotson. That could definitely be an explosive week 1 for me. And if David Montgomery could slip to me here, that would just be the little cherry on top. And if he doesn't, if he were to get swiped in front of my face right here, I might take Evan Ingram, because Evan Ingram is the kind of tight end that's all about spike weeks. And we are looking for spike weeks, but Freiermuth, I think, will make it back to us. So we're going to go with Montgomery here. Because, again, we're targeting that week 1 matchup. We're looking for the scoring. I could see Montgomery plopping in for 2 touchdowns in week 1. Alvin Kamara goes next. Kamara, it's funny. Kamara's value has kind of held all season, all off season, I should say, where he's been going between the 8th and 9th round, I feel like, all off season. And now that the suspension is known to be 3 weeks, still feels like he's going at about the same place. But 8th round Alvin Kamara, when he's back from those 3 weeks, to me, he has a clear hold of that backfield. I know there's a lot of Kendre Miller fans out there, and I understand Jamal Williams' presence does affect the goal line work, but to me, Alvin Kamara is still the best running back in that room, and when he returns, he's going to have a clear hold of the lead back job, in my opinion. And Derek Carr does throw to the running back. We saw that with Josh Jacobs. So that, I think Kamara could have like a nice bounce back season once he does return from the 3-game suspension. And normally I'm not about drafting players that are suspended, but Kamara is one of those rare exceptions where it's like you could potentially be drafting a running back 1 in the 8th round, and you just have to eat those 3 games that he's going to be gone. So that could end up being a huge value. Let's jump back into the draft board here. So after Alvin Kamara, we had Michael Pittman. Pittman at 8.5, that's a good value. He's like the only game in town pretty much. Sky Moore, Cortland Sutton, Dak Prescott, Kirk Cousins, Elijah Moore, Quentin Johnson, who I love. I love me some QJ. Dalvin Cook, Evan Ingram goes right there. So if that starts a tight end run, Freiermuth might not make it back to us, and we might have to pivot from that option. And I don't know about taking the rookie Laporta, but Cole Kmet might be a sneaky week 1 option. Khalil Herbert goes next. Khalil Herbert is still such a fantastic value at 9.2. Like, he's clearly shown that he's got a lock on the starter job, it feels like. I like Roshan Johnson, but I think it's Khalil Herbert's job to lose. Man, Brian Robinson, that would have been nice if he made it back to us. I think he's going to have a really good week 1 against the Cardinals, especially if they get out to an early lead. But we have Jahan Dotson already, so that's okay. Anthony Richardson, Geno Smith, Brian Robinson, Rashad Penny for your thoughts. Freiermuth, 2 picks in front of us. That sucks. Okay, we're going to have to play a little risky business here. I do like Antonio Gibson. Okay, no, we're going to go with Dalton Kincaid. I know, rookie tight ends, I know. But look, they're going to be playing the Jets week 1, and if that turns into a shootout and Kincaid's involved, that could end up being, again, one of those things that, pops. I was thinking about Njoku, but I'm just still not totally sold on Voldemort's return, a.k.a. Deshaun Watson. We'll see how that works out. Peanut butter jelly time with the back-to-back picks and the fantastic name. And we are back on the clock here. This is an interesting dilemma. We're going to go with Cole Kmet. That way, we're basically rounding out the tight end room with 2 tight ends that could hit week 1. And now we'll see about adding some wide receivers. I'm feeling pretty good about this for like a week 1 attack. Aaron Rodgers goes next. Man, I have thoroughly enjoyed Hard Knocks and enjoying the relationship between Aaron Rodgers and Zach Wilson, and just seeing how it's elevated Zach Wilson's confidence and made him, play better. It's just overall, it's been just really cool to see, and I think it's a sign that Aaron Rodgers has a future after playing as a coach in this league. You see the way that he interacts, where it's like he's played for so long that he knows. I think it's going to be up to him of like, is that something that he desires? Does he want to continue a life of football as a coach? Because I think he's great at it. I think he has a natural ability to relate to players. And he emphasizes in doing it in a way where it's not always like, and I think we all understand that the the game came from a military place. That's why it's often referred to with, analogies of war. But it doesn't have, it's a game at the end of the day. It doesn't have to be treated in like such a serious way, in the sense of like where you have to be military serious. Otherwise, it means that you're not being competitive. So after Aaron Rodgers, Jamison Williams, I'm out on that. I mean, even after he comes back from the 6 weeks, I think he showed inconsistency. He's not the wide receiver one on that team. He's going to be the wide receiver two. I'm not burning the roster spot. Jamal Williams, I like, because New Orleans is the type of place that I feel like will embrace him in the same way that Detroit did. Zach Charbonnet, I like his ADP because I feel like with Seattle, we've seen in the past, just like you never know which running back it's going to be. It could turn out to be any running back. So having basically like the lowest ADP Seattle running back is probably the best bet. And, they drafted Zach Charbonnet to be good. They took him in the second round. So I think he's going to have a role on this team. And, the fact that he's got the passing upside, I feel like, is an added bonus. Treylon Burks, Tyler Boyd, Nico Collins, AJ Dillon, Antonio Gibson. That's a nice pick. Tank Bigsby, who I talked about earlier as number 5 on my running backs I'm running out to draft. Make sure you go check out that video. Raheem Mostert, Colonel Mostert, Jalen Warren, Juju Smith-Schuster, Damian Harris. I like Damian Harris, but he's never, his career high was 202 touches, so I don't feel like it negates James Cook, and I would much rather have James Cook and the explosive potential as opposed to like, being like, oh, I waited and I got Damian Harris. Like, I just don't see Damian Harris as a very, sexy pick. Sam Laporta, Jerick McKinnon, Jared Goff, Alan Lazard, and we are back on the clock. Oof, I've been so in love with Devon Achane, but now I'm so sad. We definitely need some. Yes. Let me get Rashee Rice. Rashee Rice just balled out in the preseason. It's like nobody even cares. He had some like 8 receptions on 9 targets and like 96 yards. He could have a good game against Detroit. So, again, we're just trying to load up the week 1. I might take Russell Wilson. So Tua and Russell Wilson are definitely 2 quarterbacks I can honestly say I have drafted almost none of this year. So again, this is very much trying to hit on week 1. But again, one of those matchups that I had mentioned as being kind of like a wild card of, it could be very high scoring, it could be low scoring, it could be one-sided. I have no idea. Raiders Broncos is on my list of wild card games to target. When we hit Bears Packers, we hit Lions Chiefs. Not quite as hard as I wanted, but we did get David Montgomery and Rashee Rice. Got Jahan Dotson was my main target from the Commanders that I absolutely had to have. That's why I reached for him. And Bears Packers, didn't get a lot of Packers, but we got DJ Moore and Cole Kmet, so that's a nice little combo up. And then Dalton Kincaid, again, that Bills-Jets game could turn into a thing. Maybe. Rams Seahawks, that's another one that could be low-key explosive, and if JSN's not available, it just means Tyler Lockett's going to outproduce his ADP like he always does, so that was just easy. And then again, Devontae Adams playing into that Broncos game. So not exactly as picture perfect as I would want, but still a lot of the correlation to that week one strategy that we're trying to employ here. Samaje Perine falls. Might have to grab him. Let's see. So just recapping very quick, we'll just run through it. Dalton Schultz, Taysom Hill, Kenny Pickett, Tyler Higbee, old reliable, Devon A. Shane, Gerald Everett, Darnell Mooney, Jacoby Myers, Derek Carr, Marvin Mims, and there's Samaje Perine. So he won't be making it back to us. KJ Osborne, Zamir White, Jalen Hyatt. I love Jalen Hyatt this year. He strikes me as an explosive player. Definitely someone I want more in best ball as compared to like redraft or dynasty leagues where I'm going to have to actually decide when to start him. Tyler Algier. I mean, I don't really believe in the reports on Kenneth Gainwell, but at that ADP, I'm not going to complain about it. Michael Gallup goes next. And then DJ Chark, and we're back on the clock. Adam Thielen, love it. And everyone, I get it. You're, Adam Thielen. Look, Adam Thielen is just an old, reliable player. He's on a new team, so he's going to get that new team juice. And the period that I feel like you want him on your team is going to be those first 4 weeks, because you look at like the rest of the receiving room is Jonathan Mingo and DJ Chark and Laviska Shenault. It's like, who's the most reliable target there? If you were a quarterback, who would be the most reliable? The veteran, the guy who's been getting 70 receptions, basically his whole career. Ooh, Tank Dell is a nice little grab here. Even though he's dealing with some tightness, that could end up being a nice little juicy pick at the end there. And we don't really have a lot of rookies, so I don't mind balancing that out. Rondale Moore and Rashawn Johnson go next, followed by Greg Dulcich. Oh, and I kind of missed also DJ Chark. I took Adam Thielen, Jawan Johnson, Kyler Murray, Jake Ferguson, Alec Pierce. I don't even know if Kyler Murray is going to play. I would have to see the reports to see like how soon he's expected back. If it's before week 4, then I would say that he's probably going to play. If it's not before week 4, if it's week 6 that he's aiming for a return, like if they're 0-6, why would he return? It makes no sense. Greg Dulcich, Jonathan Mingo, Chigoziem Okonkwo, who I'm still very much in on for a breakout season. especially if Treylon Burks is hampered by any kind of injuries early on. Van Jefferson, Tyjae Spears, who had a nice game, or a nice play, I should say, in the preseason, but obviously King Henry's not in danger of losing his job or anything. It's always funny to me, like the overreaction. It's like the same thing with Jalen Warren, of like Steelers have to come out and be like Najee Harris not in danger of losing his job. Like, yeah, I know. I under like me as a Steelers fan, I know Jalen Warren is like a great accessory player. He's a great player to have on our team. He's not the workhorse running back that's going to carry the ball 300 times. It's not happening. That's Najee Harris's role. The role is what it is, and it's going to be a 70-30 split. If you're playing like a really, really deep league, like 16 team plus, I understand stashing and maybe even having to play Jalen Warren in certain weeks in plus matchups, but I'm not trying to rely on that in any kind of format on a week-to-week basis. And it feels to me like if you didn't take Najee Harris earlier, or if you're not in like a really deep league, to me it feels like you're burning a roster spot in a pick. Deontay Foreman, Isaiah Hodgins, Luke Musgrave, Irv Smith, and we are getting down to the last rounds here. Jaden Reed goes next. Jerome Ford, Michael Wilson. I'm just shouting out names. I almost sound spastic at this point. Just Michael Wilson. Let's shake it off here. Ooh, getting down to these last rounds is always. I mean, at this point, it's like my team's pretty much set up. Matthew Stafford. So we're basically set here for our week one. We took 7 wide receivers already, so we're just hoping any of them, again, we're just hoping for that combo to hit. Dalton Kincaid, Cole Kmet, Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, David Montgomery, Tua, and Russell Wilson. And then Stafford, Curtis Samuel, Brock Purdy, and we are on the clock next. Man, just for giggles, I might take Deuce Vaughn here. He just looks hilarious. It's just fun to watch him play. He had after his touchdown, he's just looking up at his teammates like this. Yeah. Take Deuce Vaughn there. At this point, we're just having fun. When you get to the end of your draft, yes, you want to take players that are, viable and have a path to, having at least flex appeal, but you also just want to have fun. Now, if Terry McLaurin had not been hurt, I kind of would almost want to take Sam Howell there. But instead, I don't really believe in any of those guys to hit. Oh, I didn't realize that. That's not good. Whoa, what's happening? Oh, wow. So funny. Feels like it's not a draft if I don't get auto-drafted at least one pick, right? But it was Jordan Love, so I'm totally fine with that. He's part of that Bears-Packers matchup that I was kind of eyeing. And on a season-long trajectory with how this team kind of got built, it'll at least give me a couple shots at maybe a few more weeks. So I don't hate it. I always also love justifying the auto pick immediately after it happens. We only got a couple picks here anyways. This is pretty much wrapped up. Mapletron, Kareem Hunt, Donovan Peoples-Jones. At this point, when you get down to these rounds of best ball, one of my best pieces of advice is just do everything you can to avoid a zero, because nothing kills your best ball lineups worse than zeros. And that goes on like more of a season long thing, but because like on the weekly, obviously, it kind of doesn't matter. If a guy takes 0 one week and then pops for 30 the next. But this is more like for just all the other regular best ball tournaments. A lot of what I've been doing is, and it's funny because it's like I did a golf one, and I don't know anything about golf, so it's not like I had any kind of prior knowledge or anything. But I had a decent draft according to like the projections, and then I didn't advance, but I came fourth in my league, which was like for someone who knew absolutely nothing and did basically a blind draft. It was like, oh, like I almost actually like pulled this off to where I would have advanced and maybe could have even won some money. And what killed me was the couple of players that there were a couple where I got auto drafted because it was golf. Not like I was paying the huge world of attention, and it didn't even really matter because it's not like I knew who the players were anyways. But there were also a couple randoms I took at the end where it's just like I like their name better than somebody else's name. But it was those picks ultimately that made it that I finished fourth instead of in the top three. And it's because I took zeros on those players. So, when you get down to, again, the 202 and the 207 that I'm waiting for here, when you're talking about the 17th and 18th rounds of what are, 12-person drafts, it's like just take anybody that you think will have, in this format, at least a couple viable weeks, if not one or two. And then in like the regular best ball format, I'm just looking for like veterans that, or even players that I think can get 500, 600 yards and 5 to 6 touchdowns. Because that's the kind of stuff where it's like, that's the Buckleys. It tastes awful, but it works. Like you need those kind of players at the end of your drafts. And again, in redraft and dynasty, where you're having to decide when to start those players, obviously, like that's not a viable strategy. But you don't have to do that in best ball. In best ball, that's the beauty of it. It's just you just are essentially needing to hit on the end of season stats. It's like, Adam Thielen is a perfect example of, he had 70 receptions and I think like 600 or 700 yards and like 6 touchdowns last year. So for regular fantasy, he wasn't viable. But if you took him, now granted, you probably would have had to take him earlier last year, but if you took him in like double-digit rounds and got that kind of production, or if I get that kind of production from where I took Adam Thielen in this draft from 13-10, like that's perfect. That's exactly what I need from those last rounds. It's like, if Tank Dell and Deuce Vaughn don't actually work out for me, and the same thing with Rashee Rice, like those are too many of those kind of breakout players that you're trying to put together on a team. If you take too many of those L's, that can so quickly and easily kill a roster, it feels like, as opposed to like, yeah, you're always going to have breakout players in a sense. If I took Jahan Dotson maybe earlier, I could have took Christian Watson instead of a player. Maybe a lot of times I end up with Drake London, Christian Watson, and a rookie on my team. It's like in those kinds of cases, if you have a lot of upside breakout guys that you've accumulated early, that's where I like to balance it with like straight up veterans that I'm just like, I just get me any amount of points and I'm happy. Oh yeah, Mac Hollins, one of my favorite last round picks. because he just doesn't like people that are soft. We're going very wide receiver heavy with this draft. Let's see who he's even left at running back. If we even want to bother taking another one. You know what? We'll take Evan Hall. I don't really buy the whole JT thing of him getting traded, but if for some reason he did get traded, or if he just doesn't want to play because of all the stuff going on, then, you know, Evan Hall is going to be a value. We get him super late. Don't even really need him per se, but it just kind of rounds this team out. Was that our last pick? That was our last pick. That's beautiful. So, hey, we'll wrap it all up here. We'll just recap Josh Reynolds. I mean, at this point, I don't think it really matters. I'm not even going to recap these last couple of picks. I super appreciate you if you've even made it this far, listening to me drone on about my draft here. So, again, just to recap one last time, the team: Tua, Russell Wilson, and Jordan Love for the quarterback room. The running back room, we kept it thin, but we kept it juicy with Nick Chubb, Najee Harris, David Montgomery, the new Darren Sproles, Deuce Vaughn, and Evan Hall. And then wide receiver, and this is where I really felt like we got a lot of juice. Devontae Adams, DJ Moore, Tyler Lockett is a great three-headed monster, I feel like. And then I was able to also put in Jahan Dotson, who just has massive week one upside potential now, especially with the turf toe injury for Terry McLaurin. Rashee Rice, you know, he had a really nice preseason game, and if that happens again, I could see that translating into him getting on the field a little bit more in week one. And against the Lions, anything can happen. So Rashee Rice, just keep an eye on him. Adam Thielen, again, I get it. If you want to laugh at me, scoff, that's fine. Again, I'm not like, oh, Adam Thielen's going to have a renaissance season and go for 1,000. No. I'm saying Adam Thielen is going to have a nice little season where I think he gets 800 yards and 8 touchdowns. And that's not great for redraft, but it's just fine in the later rounds of my best ball. And then we took an upside pick in Tank Dell, because he has already had some nice games. And then, you know, I don't like soft teams, so got to always make sure we harden up with Mac Hollins at the end. And again, Mac Hollins is one of those players where I don't want to necessarily have to predict when Mac Hollins is going to hit, but you know he's going to have games where he hits. So that's where I love to just throw him on my roster at the end. And then the tight end room was a little bit weak. And obviously week 13, we're not going to be having a tight end, so we're not going to be trying to win the week 13 that week. But Dalton Kincaid and Cole Kmet, I'm hoping just one of them basically gets a touchdown week one, and then that'll be my tight end one. And hopefully that'll round out enough for me to, you know, get a nice early weekly winner, week one action, set me up for the rest of the season for my pick'ems. Again, super appreciate you if you've made it this far. Thank you so much for watching. Please go and like and subscribe and share the video. It helps so much with the algorithms. And again, please go sign up to fantasyfootballadviceforum.com. You can use my exclusive code Joker420 to get 20% off. You can hang out with a bunch of awesome content creators, including myself. But like, more importantly, there's you know, FF Mad Scientist, Fourth and Flex, you know, and I'm forgetting all kinds of great ones. Gridiron Gals over there, Bougie Sports, Yvette Lavoie is over there. There's literally like just so many awesome creators. So please go check that out, because you know, we just want you to be part of the community, and that's what we're trying to build over there. Again, thank you. Catch you all on the flip side.
Is this the dagger? Game! Series!